Here's a 2020 Honda Odyssey, and we should quickly go over how to time this 3.5 liter V6 in here, starting with the timing marks. The right head, or the rear head, if you want to call it that, is very easy. It only has one mark on the cam gear. All you have to do is line it up with that mark right there. The left head or front head's a little bit more difficult. It has lots of marks. You need to find the number 1, and that's your timing mark right there. And that lines up with the same kind of mark on the cylinder head. I've painted the entire tooth red so I can identify it and line it up more easily. On the crankshaft, there's a little arrow lined up with the flywheel key. That lines up with the arrow on the oil pump. Let me paint that red for you so you can see it a little bit better. We're talking about that little guy right there and that little guy right there. They need to be straight. Just like that right there. Now we're ready to put the belt on. Put the belt on the crankshaft first. Route it over the idler wheel. Pull the belt tightly and fit it over the left cam gear. There's a lip provided to hold the belt in place. I painted it red so you can see it. Once you've wrapped the belt around the crankshaft, pulled it tightly over the idler and around this cam gear, you can secure it underneath of that lip. Advance the right camshaft with a wrench about half a tooth. Route the belt tightly underneath of the water pump and pull it tightly over top of the right cam gear. There are similar lips to hold the belt in place around this gear. They're difficult to see. There's one right there and there's another on the backside. Use a wrench to turn the right camshaft back into position. This will tighten your belt. Once you're certain all of the slack is on the tensioner pulley side, you can reinstall your tensioner and release the tensioner. Then go back and double check all of your timing marks are still where they need to be. Wow, that guy's in there. There. Looking good on the crankshaft. I realize I called that keyway the flywheel key earlier. I'm sorry about that. That is just a keyway on the crankshaft, not a flywheel key. Everything looks good on the left head. Now the right head's a little more difficult to see, but what I did was actually paint the tooth right there so that I can see where it is and that it's lined up with, if my lighting would work a little bit better, the red mark on the timing gear. Okay, let's go over some torque real quick. The 5 10mm headed bolts that hold the water pump in place are torqued to 106 inch-pounds. The one 14mm headed bolt that holds the idler in place requires Loctite and it's torqued to 33 foot-pounds. The one 14mm headed bolt that holds the swing arm in place for the tensioner also requires Loctite and it's torqued to 19 foot-pounds. The two 10mm headed bolts that hold the tensioner in place are torqued to 106 inch-pounds. That should cover everything. I'm very sorry about what happened with the last video where I began working on this thing. I don't know why, but since I hit 10,000 followers, my videos get messed up halfway through an awful lot. And sometimes it won't let me record past a certain point, or it'll try to add a sound that I don't want there. Oh, and this crank bolt that took 2,000 pounds to remove actually gets tightened to 50 foot-pounds, then it's turned 60 degrees. Well, 47 foot-pounds, then you turn it 60 degrees. It's really not that bad.